The moment I opened the door, something in my chest tightened like it already knew this wasn't going to be an ordinary day. She was standing there at the edge of my porch, just beyond the shadow of the doorway, as if she didn't believe she had the right to step closer. Her shoulders were slightly hunched, her hands clasped together in front of her like she had been holding onto herself for hours. And when she looked up at me, there was a kind of exhaustion in her eyes that didn't come from a long day, but from a long life. "I've been waiting all day," she said quietly. "If this happened to you, what would you do? Would you recognize her? Would you invite her in? Or would you shut the door and pretend the past never found its way back to you?" Because the truth is, I almost didn't recognize her. Her name was Rachel. 10 years ago, she had been the center of my world. Back when everything felt possible, when I was still the kind of man who believed love could fix anything. We met in a small town in Ohio, both working jobs we didn't care about, dreaming of lives we didn't know how to reach. She had this laugh that made everything feel lighter, like even the worst days couldn't last forever. But life doesn't always move in the direction you hope. I chased opportunities out west, convinced I could build something better. She wanted stability, something rooted and certain. We fought about it for months until one night, standing in the parking lot of a grocery store, we said things neither of us could take back. I left the next morning. She didn't come with me. And just like that, the future we once shared disappeared. I hadn't seen her since. Until now. Standing there on my porch in Sacramento, wearing a simple burgundy dress that looked slightly wrinkled, like she had been sitting somewhere too long. Her hair was shorter than I remembered, her face thinner, but her eyes, they were the same, still holding more emotion than words could carry. "I didn't know if you still lived here," she added, almost apologetically. I stepped aside without thinking, motioning her in. She hesitated for just a second, then crossed the threshold like it meant something. Maybe it did. Inside, the house felt different with her in it. Smaller somehow, quieter. Like it was waiting for something to be said. She didn't sit right away. She just looked around, taking in the framed photos, the clean surfaces, the life I had built in her absence. There wasn't much to see. A few pictures with coworkers, a fishing trip with a friend, a life that looked full on the outside but had always felt a little hollow underneath. "I'm sorry," she said suddenly, her voice cracking in a way that made my stomach drop. I frowned, unsure which part she was apologizing for. The past, the present, showing up like this out of nowhere. "For what?" I asked. "For not coming after you," she said, finally sitting down, her hands still trembling slightly. "For letting you leave like that. For thinking I had more time." There it was. That quiet, aching regret that settles into people when they realize life doesn't wait. I leaned against the wall, crossing my arms, trying to keep my emotions from rushing in all at once. "Rachel, that was a long time ago," she nodded, but her eyes filled with tears anyway. "It doesn't feel like it." Silence stretched between us, heavy and uncomfortable, filled with everything we hadn't said over the years. And then she took a deep breath, like she was about to step off a cliff. "I got married," she said. The words hit me harder than I expected, not because I hadn't imagined it, but because hearing it out loud made it real in a way nothing else could. "I figured," I said quietly. "He passed away last year," she continued, her voice breaking completely now. "Car accident, it was sudden. One moment everything was normal, and then—" She trailed off, shaking her head. I felt something shift inside me, the kind of shift that comes when you realize someone else has been carrying a weight you never knew about. "I'm sorry," I said, and this time, I meant it more deeply than anything I had said before. She wiped her eyes, but the tears kept coming. "After he died, I started thinking about everything I never did, everything I left unfinished, and you were always there in the back of my mind like a door I never closed." I swallowed hard, my throat tightening. "So you came here," I said. "I drove all night," she admitted. "I didn't even know what I was going to say. I needed to see you, to know if you were okay, to know if I could still—" She stopped herself, looking down. Still what? Still matter, still belong, still be forgiven. The questions hung in the air between us. "You've been out there all day?" I asked. She nodded. "I got here early this morning. I didn't know if I should knock. I almost left 3 times. Something about that broke me a little, because I could picture it so clearly. Her sitting on the steps, watching the sun move across the sky, fighting with herself, wondering if she had the right to be here. Wondering if I would even open the door. What if I hadn't? What if I came home late, or decided to go somewhere else? How long would she have waited before giving up? "Why didn't you just knock?" I asked softly. She looked up at me, her eyes searching mine. "Because I didn't know if you'd want to see me." That was the moment everything shifted. Not dramatically, not like in the movies, but quietly, deeply, in a way that settled into my bones. Because the truth was, I had spent years telling myself I had moved on, that I was better off, that what we had was just a chapter that had ended. But standing there looking at her, I realized something I had been avoiding for a long time. Some stories don't end, they just wait. I walked over and sat across from her, close enough to see every line of pain and hope on her face. "You should have knocked," I said. A tear slipped down her cheek as she let out a small, shaky laugh. "I was scared." "So was I admitted. We sat there for a long time after that, talking in fragments, filling in the missing years piece by piece. There were things we didn't say, wounds we didn't reopen, but somehow it didn't matter. Just being there in the same room was enough. The sun began to set outside, casting a warm glow through the windows, and for the first time in a long while, the house didn't feel empty. "I don't know what happens next," she said eventually. I nodded. "Me neither." And that was okay. Because for the first time, neither of us was trying to control the future. We were just sitting in the present, letting it be what it was. Two people changed by time, by loss, by choices they couldn't undo, finding their way back to something they thought was gone. Before the story ends, I want to ask you something. Have you ever let someone go, only to realize later they were never meant to leave your life? Tell me in the comments, because your story might mean more than you think. As for Rachel and me, we didn't rush into anything. We didn't pretend the past didn't exist. We just took a step forward together, one quiet moment at a time. And sometimes that's all a second chance really is. If this story touched your heart even a little, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, only if it truly meant something to you.